October 12, 1981. Johnny Carson was mid-monologue, riding high on another perfect Monday night when his executive producer appeared at the edge of the stage, something Fred de Cordova never did during taping. Johnny saw him immediately and knew something was wrong. During the commercial break, Fred leaned in close. "There's a little girl backstage, Make-A-Wish Foundation, brain tumor, terminal. The doctors said this might be her last good week. She asked to meet you." Johnny didn't hesitate. "Bring her out." What happened in the next 12 minutes, when 7-year-old Emily Carter was wheeled onto that stage clutching a homemade card and looked up at Johnny with eyes that had seen too much pain, would break the king of late night in front of 20 million viewers. And what Johnny did after the camera stopped rolling would define who he really was beneath the smile. Studio One in Burbank, California was humming that Monday night. The Tonight Show was a well-oiled machine, and Johnny Carson was at the controls doing what he did better than anyone, making America laugh. The monologue was killing. The audience was eating it up. Ed McMahon was delivering his trademark laugh on cue. Doc Severinsen and the band were tight. Everything was going exactly as planned. Then Johnny saw Fred de Cordova standing at the edge of the stage. Fred never appeared during taping. Never. He managed everything from the control booth, invisible and efficient. But there he was, and the look on his face told Johnny this wasn't a technical issue. The show cut to commercial. Fred walked over quickly, leaning close to Johnny's ear. "Johnny, we've got a situation." "What kind of situation?" "There's a kid backstage, 7 years old. Make-A-Wish Foundation brought her. She's not doing well. Brain tumor, terminal. The family drove up from San Diego this morning because the doctors told them this might be her last good week." Johnny looked toward the stage entrance. "What does she want?" "To meet you, that's it. Just to meet you." "How bad is it?" Fred's voice dropped. "Bad. She's in a wheelchair, weighs maybe 38 pounds. Johnny, she's dying, and her only wish was to shake your hand." Johnny didn't think, didn't calculate, didn't worry about ratings or pacing or whether this would work on television. "Bring her out." Fred blinked. "What?" "Bring her out, now, on stage." "Johnny, are you sure? We can do this backstage after the show. Keep it private." Johnny's voice was firm. "Fred, if this little girl is dying and she wants to meet me, I'm not making her wait in some hallway. Bring her out." Before we go deeper into what happened when Emily Carter rolled onto that stage, if you're here because you remember when Johnny Carson could stop an entire show for a dying child, when television wasn't afraid of real emotion, subscribe to Johnny Carson. Legacy Stories. We're uncovering the moments that made Johnny more than just a host. Hit that bell so you never miss these truths. Emily Carter was 7 years old and weighed 38 pounds. The brain tumor, an aggressive glioblastoma that doctors said was inoperable, had been growing for 18 months. It had already paralyzed her legs, stolen her balance, and was slowly taking everything else. The doctors had given her 3, maybe 4 months, but Emily had one dream, one thing that got her through the hospital stays, the radiation treatments, the nights when the headaches were so bad she couldn't sleep. She wanted to meet Johnny Carson. See, Emily's mom, Linda Carter, was a single parent. Emily's father had left 6 months after the diagnosis. Couldn't handle it. Just walked away. So it was just the two of them. A mother and daughter fighting a battle they couldn't win. And every night, no matter how bad Emily felt, no matter how much her head hurt, they had a ritual. At 11:30 p.m., Linda would turn on The Tonight Show. She'd sit on the edge of Emily's hospital bed, and they'd watch Johnny together. Emily couldn't always laugh. Sometimes the pain was too much. But Johnny made her mom laugh. And when her mom laughed, Emily felt a little bit better. "Mommy," Emily had said 3 weeks earlier, her voice small and tired, "before I go to heaven, can I meet the man who makes you smile?" Linda had tried to explain that people like Johnny Carson don't meet regular people, that you can't just call NBC and ask. But she'd called anyway, called the Make-A-Wish Foundation, made the request, never thought it would actually happen. Then the call came. October 12th, 1 slot. Could they make it to Burbank? Linda said yes before the woman finished the question. The commercial break ended. Johnny walked back to his mark, looked at the audience, and his expression had changed. The performer's smile was gone. Something else had replaced it, something real. "Folks," Johnny said, his voice different now. "We're going to do something a little different right now. We have a very special guest joining us tonight." The stage door opened. A production assistant pushed a small wheelchair onto the stage, and the audience went completely silent. This wasn't a celebrity. This was a tiny little girl in a wheelchair, bald from chemotherapy, wearing a pink dress that was way too big for her thin frame. She was clutching something against her chest, something made of construction paper and crayon. Johnny walked over immediately. No hesitation, no playing to the cameras. He knelt down beside the wheelchair, putting himself at eye level with Emily. "Hey there, sweetheart," Johnny said, his voice gentle. "What's your name?" Emily's voice was small but clear. "Emily Carter. I'm 7. I came all the way from San Diego." "San Diego? That's a long drive. You must be tired." "A little bit," Emily said, "but I wanted to meet you really, really bad." Johnny smiled, that genuine Carson smile, not the TV one. "Well, I'm awful glad you're here, Emily. Is that your mom over there?" He gestured toward Linda, who was standing just off stage, barely holding herself together. "Yeah, that's my mommy. She watches you every night with me." "Every night?" Johnny asked, glancing at Linda. "Even the reruns?" Emily giggled, actually giggled. "Even the reruns." The audience was dead silent now. 20 million people watching at home were dead silent. Something was happening that didn't happen on talk shows, something unscripted and raw and painfully real. Johnny noticed Emily was holding something. "What have you got there, sweetie?" Emily held out a homemade card, construction paper, crayons, stickers, a child's drawing of Johnny sitting at his desk. "I made this for you," Emily said. "Mommy helped me with the spelling because my hands shake sometimes." Johnny took the card carefully, like it was made of glass. His hands were trembling slightly. He opened it. Inside, in a child's unsteady handwriting, were 7 words that would break him. "Thank you for making my mommy smile. Love, Emily." Johnny stared at those words, read them again, then one more time. The audience saw it happen in real time. His composure, that legendary Carson cool, just cracked. Johnny looked at Emily, this tiny 7-year-old girl who was dying, who'd used her dying wish not to go to Disneyland, not to meet a princess, but to thank him for making her mother smile. And Johnny Carson broke. His eyes filled with tears, his voice caught. He tried to speak and couldn't. Emily saw Johnny crying and reached out her small hand. She put it on his arm, her fingers so thin they looked like bird bones. "It's okay, Mr. Carson," Emily said softly. "Mommy cries sometimes too. She says it just means you have a really big heart." That did it. Johnny completely lost it. He pulled Emily into a hug, gentle, so gentle because she was so fragile. And Johnny Carson, the king of late night, the man who'd interviewed presidents and never shown weakness, sobbed on national television. The audience didn't know whether to applaud or stay silent. Most of them were crying too. Ed McMahon was openly weeping at his desk. Doc Severinsen was wiping his eyes. Camera operators were struggling to keep their equipment steady. 20 million Americans were watching pure, unscripted humanity. Johnny pulled himself together, barely. He was still kneeling beside Emily's wheelchair, tears streaming down his face. "Emily," he said, his voice rough, "you are one special little girl. You know that?" "Mommy tells me that all the time." "Your mommy's right." Johnny paused, trying to find his voice. "Can I ask you something?" "Okay. What do you want? To be when you grow up?" The question hung in the air like a weight. Everyone in that studio knew Emily wasn't going to grow up. The doctors had been clear. Months, not years. But Emily answered without hesitation, her voice bright and certain. "A comedian, just like you." Johnny's face did something complicated. Pain and pride and heartbreak all tangled together. "Yeah? You got any jokes for me?" Emily nodded eagerly. "Why did the princess go to the doctor?" Johnny smiled through his tears. "I don't know. Why?" "Because she needed a royal checkup." It wasn't a great joke. It barely made sense. But Johnny laughed, really laughed, and the audience laughed with him, and Emily lit up like she'd just performed at Carnegie Hall. "That's good," Johnny said, standing up and addressing the audience. "Ladies and gentlemen, Emily Carter, the future of comedy." The audience gave Emily a standing ovation, a real one, the kind you give when you've witnessed something important. If you're feeling the weight of this moment, the innocence of a dying child, the courage it took for Johnny to let himself break, you're exactly where we want you. That's what Johnny Carson Legacy Stories is about. The human moments that define the man. Subscribe now, because these stories matter more than any punchline ever could. What happened next wasn't captured by the cameras. The show cut to commercial, and Johnny did something he'd never done before. He had the producers clear the stage. Everyone out except Emily, her mom Linda, and Johnny. Johnny sat down on the floor next to Emily's wheelchair, just the three of them on that famous Tonight Show stage. "Emily," Johnny said, "I want to give you something." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small gold locket, something he'd been carrying for years, a gift from his own mother. "This locket has been with me for a long time," Johnny said, opening it to show a tiny photo inside. "And I want you to have it, so you can always remember that you're not just special to your mommy, you're special to me too." Emily's eyes went wide. "I can't take that. It's too pretty." "You're not taking it," Johnny said gently. "I'm giving it. Big difference." Linda was sobbing now, full on crying. "Johnny, we can't." Johnny looked at her, and his voice was firm but kind. "Ma'am, your daughter taught me something tonight. She reminded me why I do this. It's not about the ratings or the celebrities or any of that. It's about making people smile when they need it most." He paused. "You two have been watching me every night, and I didn't even know you existed. But now I do. And I'm going to make sure Emily gets the best care available. Whatever she needs, however long she needs it." "Johnny, we don't have the money." "I didn't ask about money," Johnny interrupted, gently. "I said whatever she needs." He pulled out a piece of paper and wrote something on it, his personal phone number. "You call me," he said, handing it to Linda. "Day or night, if Emily needs anything at all, you call me." Emily Carter died on March 8, 1982, 5 months after that Tonight Show appearance. 5 months the doctors said she wouldn't get, but they weren't ordinary months. Johnny kept his promise. He called Emily every week, sometimes twice a week. They'd talk about jokes, about her favorite cartoons, about what heaven might be like. When Emily was too sick to talk, Johnny would stay on the line while Linda held the phone to Emily's ear, and Johnny would tell her stories, do voices, make her smile even when the pain was unbearable. Johnny paid for experimental treatments, flew in specialists from across the country, made sure Emily got to see the Muppets in a private screening when she was too weak to go to a theater. And he did one more thing, something he never told anyone while he was alive. He set up a trust fund for Linda. Enough to cover all the medical bills, all the funeral expenses, and enough left over that she'd never have to worry about money again. The only condition, she couldn't tell anyone where it came from. After Emily died, Linda sent Johnny a letter. He kept it in his desk drawer for the rest of his life. It was found there after Johnny died in 2005. The letter was simple, written on lined notebook paper. "Dear Johnny, Emily passed this morning. She was holding the locket you gave her. Her last words were, 'Tell Mr. Carson I hope I made him laugh.' You gave my daughter 5 extra months of joy. You gave her dignity. You gave her a reason to fight a little longer. But most importantly, you saw her, not as a dying girl, not as a tragedy, but as Emily, a little girl who loved jokes and wanted to make her mommy smile. Thank you for seeing my daughter." Forever grateful, Linda. Johnny never talked about Emily publicly. When asked about emotional moments on the show, he'd deflect, change the subject, make a joke. But people who knew him said Emily changed something fundamental in Johnny. After that night, Johnny started paying attention differently, to the audience, to the crew, to the stories people weren't telling. He started a private foundation. Nobody knew about it until after he died. It funded pediatric brain cancer research, millions of dollars, all anonymous. Ed McMahon once said, "After Emily, Johnny stopped performing life and started living it. That little girl reminded him what matters." On Johnny's final episode in 1992, someone in the audience held up a sign, "Remember Emily." The cameras caught Johnny's face when he saw it. He nodded slightly, touched the place on his chest where he used to keep his mother's locket, the one he'd given to a dying 7-year-old girl. After the show, a reporter asked Johnny what the sign meant. Johnny smiled, that genuine smile. "It means some of the most important people you'll ever meet aren't famous. They're just important." Here's what people don't understand about October 12, 1981. It wasn't special because Johnny Carson cried on television. Celebrities cry all the time now. It was special because Johnny forgot he was on television. For those 12 minutes, he wasn't the king of late night. He wasn't performing. He wasn't playing a role. He was just a man who met a dying child and realized that all the fame, all the success, all the legendary status in the world meant nothing compared to making one little girl feel special before she died. Emily came to The Tonight Show to meet her hero. But Johnny walked away knowing he'd met his. We live in a world obsessed with celebrity, with followers and likes and viral moments. We measure success in numbers and influence, but on October 12, 1981, the most successful man on television learned a lesson from a 38-pound 7-year-old. Success isn't about how many people know your name. It's about being there for the people who need you most. Emily used her dying wish to thank someone for making her mother smile. Johnny used his fame to make sure Emily's last months were filled with dignity and joy. One child, one moment, one reminder that we're all just human beings trying to matter to someone. The question Emily never asked out loud was the one that mattered most. Do I matter? And Johnny Carson, with tears streaming down his face on national television, answered, yes, you matter more than you'll ever know. Johnny Carson died in 2005, but what he did for Emily Carter that October night still echoes. It reminds us that the most important moments aren't the ones we plan. They're the ones where we stop performing and start being human. Emily reminded Johnny and 20 million Americans that behind all the jokes and the fame was something more important: kindness. On October 12, 1981, Johnny Carson proved that being a good person matters more than being a good entertainer. And that's a legacy worth more than any Emmy, any rating, any standing ovation. If this story moved you, if Emily's courage and Johnny's kindness touched something in you, subscribe to Johnny Carson Legacy Stories right now. Hit that like button. Share this with someone who needs to remember that fame means nothing if we don't use it to help others. And drop a comment. Have you ever met someone who reminded you what really matters? Because sometimes the most important people aren't the ones on stage. They're the ones in the audience, just hoping someone notices they're there. Emily Carter noticed Johnny Carson, and Johnny made sure the world would never forget her. That's what heroes do.